Hi, so we are in Chapter 1, Part 2, Intervals. An interval is the measurement of the distance in pitch between two notes. A harmonic interval results when the notes are performed at the same time, whereas a melodic interval occurs when the notes are played successively. The method of measuring intervals is the same for both harmonic and melodic intervals. And here we have an example of a couple of harmonic intervals. And here are those same intervals in melodic form. So there are two parts to any interval name: the numerical name and the modifier that precedes the numerical name. So the numerical name is a measurement of how far apart the notes are vertically on the staff, regardless of what accidentals are involved. Okay, so here we have some examples. Here's a unison. Notice that these notes are actually harmonic. Okay, they're not melodic, just like these. They're like stacked as close together as they can be. So just remember those are harmonic. You have a unison, the same two notes. And here we have a second, a third, another third. And notice the thirds, they go from space to space or line to line. So that's an easy way to identify the thirds. And here we have some accidentals. So those would need the modifier, right? Major, minor, diminished, augmented, and so on. Okay. So, moving on. In talking about intervals, we use the terms unison instead of 1 and octave instead of 8. We also say second instead of 2 and third instead of 3 and so on. Intervals smaller than an octave are called simple intervals, whereas larger intervals, including the octave, are called compound intervals. It is important to notice in example 119 that the harmonic interval of a second is notated with the top note offset a little to the right of the bottom note. Accidentals are offset in the same way for harmonic intervals of a second, third, or fourth, if both notes require an accidental. So you see how we have the second here, and it's just offset a little bit to the right. And here we have a pair with the accidentals. So the accidentals follow suit the same way as the notes do. Okay. So that gives us enough information to start the homework, part A, where we just need to provide the numerical names of the intervals by using numbers 1 through 8. So we don't have to worry about major, minor, or anything like that. Okay, so let's start with number 1, F to A, where we talked about space to space or line to line as a third. You can also count 1, 2, 3. Okay. E to F, that's a second. A to F sharp. So we have root, third, fifth, plus 1 would make it a sixth. You can also count them like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. B flat to B flat, we know that's an octave. C sharp to G, fifth. E to C sharp, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. F to F, another octave. And B to D sharp is a third. Okay, so I'll see you for the next part. Okay, so right now we're going to talk about perfect intervals. So one way to begin learning the modifiers for intervals is by relating them to the intervals contained in the major scale. Specifically the intervals from 1 up to the other scale degrees. This method can then be applied in any context, whether or not the major scale is actually being used. Okay, so using the major scale is a good way to start. Knowing your major scales makes it a lot easier. So at least remember the whole step, half step rule, and you can build your major scale. Okay, remember it's whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Just like the C major scale, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Okay? Now, so the term perfect, abbreviated with a P, capital P, is a modifier used only in connection with unisons, fourths, fifths, and octaves, and their compounds, elevenths, and so on. As example 120 illustrates, a perfect unison, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, and perfect octave can all be constructed by using 1, scale degree 1, in the major scale as the bottom note. Okay? So we have C to C. That's a perfect unison. Okay. C to F is a perfect fourth. C to G, perfect fifth. And C to C is a perfect eighth or octave. Okay. Here's another example. Like for example, if we want to spell one of these intervals, a perfect interval above E flat, we need only think of scale steps 1, 4, and 5 of the E flat major scale. Okay, so if the bottom note does not commonly serve as one of a major scale, such as D sharp, remove the accidental temporarily, spell the interval, and then apply the accidentals to both notes. Like they did here. Here's a D sharp. They want a perfect fifth above it. Boom. Remove the accidentals. Put your fifth there. And then add your sharps. So, like with the example of E flat, okay, we only need to think of scale steps 1, 4, and 5 to find the perfect intervals. Right? So, in the key of E flat, let's build the major scale. There's 3 flats, so E flat, A flat, and B flat. Right? B, E, A, D, G, C, F. Breakfast eating after donuts gets Charlie fat. All right, remember that. Now, we can also do this by using our whole step, half step rule. So, if you start on E flat, a whole step from there is F. Whole step to G, whole, whole, half, whole. So, E flat, A flat, and B flat. So E flat to A flat is a perfect fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. E flat to B flat would be a perfect fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now the reason there's no D sharp major scale is because you cannot have double sharps in a key signature. See, watch. If we do our whole step, half step rule, go D sharp, our next note is not an F. It has to be some kind of E. It's got to go D, E, F, G, and so on, right? So it'd be D sharp, E sharp, and here's our next note, whole step. So E sharp, we have to go to, this has to be some kind of F. So this would be an F double sharp. Okay, and that's why there's no D sharp major scale. All right, you'll find the same thing with A sharp major. That's why we use B flat. You don't need to get hung up on that right now. We're just learning intervals, but it's good to know, and it'll come in handy someday. Okay, so I think with that information, we have enough to do section exercise 1.5 part A. Okay, now let's zoom in a little bit there. Okay, so all of the following intervals are unisons, fourths, fifths, or octaves. Put a P in the space provided only if the interval, is a perfect interval. Okay, so first we know E to A, that is a fourth. Okay, so is it perfect? Well, is A part of the E major scale? Let's check. Okay, whole, half. It is. Therefore, this is a perfect fourth. So we'll put a P here. Okay, E flat to E flat. That is an octave. So it's perfect. It's a perfect octave. There's a unison. Okay, yes, it's not augmented. Therefore, it's perfect. Okay, here. F sharp to B. All right, so that's a fourth. Is the B part of the F sharp major scale? Let's check. Okay. We have F sharp, so we have whole, half. It is. Therefore, it must be a perfect fourth. Okay. Now, A flat to D. All right, that's a fourth. We need to find out if it's perfect. Okay, here we go. Whole, half. So we go to a D flat. That would be a perfect fourth, A flat to D flat. So A flat to D is not. So we're not going to put a P in that space. Let's just, we'll put an X there. Now, here we are in bass clef. C sharp to G. Okay, so that's a fifth, right? Is it a perfect fifth? No. You should know by now that C natural to G is a perfect fifth. C sharp to G, we made it smaller, so that's a diminished fifth, a tritone. So we put an X there, and G flat to G flat, that's perfect octave. Okay, D to G. All right, so hopefully you know your D major scale. Let's check it out though, make sure. D to G. Whole, half. Yes, it is perfect. All right, 17. G sharp to C sharp. Okay. Well, We know G to C is a perfect fourth, whole half. So G sharp to C sharp would also be a perfect fourth. Now you can test that. Whole, half, right? Okay. Whole, half. Sometimes it's just easier to see from the naturals, right? And here we go. E to B sharp. I don't think B sharp belongs in the E major scale, right? So we have whole, half, whole, half. So B sharp is not part of the E major scale, right? B natural is. So that would be an augmented fifth, right? It's not perfect. Okay, so we got that section done. Now for the next section, we're going to have to study about major and minor intervals. Okay, so I will see you there. All right, so I also wanted to point out that the perfect fourth and perfect fifth works the same in major as it does in minor with the lowered third, right? It's one of the reasons that they're perfect. It also has to do with the way they sound. It gets pretty deep, but we'll just leave it at that. Perfect fourths and perfect fifths and unisons, they're the same, whether you're in the major scale or the minor scale. Okay, so thanks. Okay, so we're back and we're talking about the modifiers major and minor, abbreviated as capital M for major and lowercase m for minor. These are used only in connection with seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths. So there are no major fourths or major fifths and stuff like that. The intervals formed by scale degree 1 to 2, 1 to 3, and 1 to 6, 1 to 7 in the major scale are all major intervals. As example 122 illustrates here. C to D, major second. C to E is a major third. C to A, major sixth. C to B, major seventh. We know that because all of these naturals are in the key of C. Right? Okay, so now if a major interval is made a half step smaller without altering its numerical name, it becomes a minor interval. Notice that you can make an interval smaller by lowering the top note or raising the bottom note. Okay, so we have some examples here. G to A is a major second. You lower the top note, make it A flat, and it now becomes a minor second. So here's F to A, a major third. Now they raised the bottom note and sharped it, and it became a minor third, F sharp to A. Okay, and the same works for sixths and sevenths. So, with that information, we can start working on part B. Let's zoom in a little bit there. Okay. Now, all of the following intervals are seconds, thirds, sixths, or sevenths. Put an M, an uppercase, or a lowercase m in each space as appropriate. Okay. So, we're just identifying the quality of these now. So we have bass clef D to B. Okay, so the D major scale has two sharps, F sharp, C sharp. So the B is part of the major scale. All right, so we have whole, whole, half, whole, whole. So we've got a D to a B. D to A is a perfect fifth. So this would be a major sixth. Okay. So we'll put an M there. And they have the interval there too. So, yeah, major sixth. Okay, A to B. There's no accidentals there. We know that's a whole step. So that would be a major interval. Okay, D to F sharp. Okay, we just talked about the D major scale. G, E, F sharp, whole, whole. That is a third, right? 1, 2, 3. It's part of the major scale. It's a major third. Okay. Now we have B flat to G flat. Okay. So the B flat major scale has two flats, B flat and E flat. There is no G flat. Okay, so that would be a major sixth. But let's confirm that. Let me just show you step by step. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. So we have a G natural in the B flat major scale, not a G flat. So makes it a minor sixth. Okay, it's part of the minor scale. All right. So E flat to G. All right. E flat major has three flats, E flat, A flat, B flat. Whole, whole. It's part of the major scale. All right. Now sometimes you'll be able to see these and recognize these without going through all these steps eventually, but maybe you can even do that now. That's great. But this is a good way to go and check it out. Everything goes back to the major scale. Okay. The whole step, half step rule always works. So here we are in treble clef, and we have F to D. So F to D. Now in the key of F, remember, there's only one flat, the B flat. Okay, that's one of those keys you just have to remember. It has a B flat. So is there a D flat in there? There's a D, right? Whole, whole, half. Whole, 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 half. There's a D. F to D. Major sixth. Okay. Now we have C flat to E flat. Ooh, interesting one. Okay. So C to E, we know that it's some type of third, right? So here's C. Now here's E flat, right? So we want to make the C into a C flat. So this is now, the B becomes C flat. Okay, so C to E flat is a minor third because C to E is a major, right? C, D, E, major third. Da, 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 right? We have the minor, but we're lowering it to C flat. So we just made a minor third bigger, right? So it became a major third. Just like B to D sharp is a major third. Okay. C flat to E flat is a major third. It's kind of a tricky one, huh? All right. Okay, so our next one, number 15, we have an E sharp to C sharp. Okay, so let's go back to what we know. E to C sharp. All right. Now that would be whole, whole, half, whole, whole. It's part of the major scale. So that would be a major sixth. So if we raise up the E to an E sharp, it would become a minor sixth. All right. Just like E to C is a minor sixth. E sharp to C sharp is also a minor sixth. Put a little M there. Okay. Now, B flat to C. Okay. It's a second. Is it major or minor? Well, we know our naturally occurring half steps are between B and C, so that would be a minor second. Make it a little bigger. B flat to C, a whole step, becomes a major second. Okay. And the last one, G sharp to E. Okay. So let's remove that G sharp for a second, bring it back down to G. Okay. To E. So you know G to E, all these notes are in the major scale, right? And we have the F sharp in the key of G. So it would be a major sixth, right? So if we raise up the G a half step to the G sharp, it would become a minor sixth. Right? So we'll put a lowercase m there. All right. And now we're done with this section. And I'll see you next in the next section. All right, so I thought we'd spend a little time at the keyboard. I'd like to go over fourths and fifths with you. So we'll start out in C. C to F, perfect fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half steps away. Okay. D flat to G flat, or C sharp to F sharp. Notice it goes natural, natural, flat to flat, or sharp to sharp. Same here, here. Now here, we go from a natural to a flat. Okay, so we got to be careful with that, especially when writing it on paper. And here we go from F sharp to B natural, right? So we got to watch out for that. Now, if we use the enharmonic equivalent G flat to C flat, that would be flat to flat on paper, okay? So you have to watch out if the note starts with some kind of F, either an F natural or an F sharp. Okay, that's the only spot that we have to really worry about that. So now we're back. Okay? Alright, so with fifths, a perfect fifth, is 7 half steps away. Here's 5, 6, 7, right? Okay, so we got natural to natural, sharp to sharp, or flat to flat. And it goes like this. Until we get to B. Okay, notice we have a B flat to a natural, to an F natural. That's a perfect fifth. And then now we have a B natural to an F sharp. Okay, and the enharmonic equivalent of that would be G flat to C flat. So on paper it would be flat to flat. So you got to watch out when you're doing fifths if the note starts on some kind of B. Okay, so with the fourths, if we remained on naturals, we'd have an augmented fourth. Okay, that'd be 6 half steps away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, but we want 5. Okay, so there's an augmented fourth, and that inverts to a diminished fifth. All right, B to F is a diminished fifth. B to F sharp is a perfect fifth. Okay, so I'll show you that on paper, and I'll see you there. Okay, so real quick, I wanted to show you the enharmonic equivalent to the sharps. Now we have F to B flat, a perfect fourth, right? That is enharmonically equivalent to E sharp to A sharp. So technically here on paper we're going sharp to sharp. Okay? Now, just like we went sharp to natural, F sharp to B natural is enharmonically equivalent to C flat to G flat, flat to flat. Okay, so E sharp to A sharp, A sharp to E sharp. There's a perfect fifth, right? So B flat to F is enharmonically equivalent to A sharp to E sharp. Okay? Just like B natural to F sharp is enharmonic to C flat to G flat. Okay? So you have E sharp, A sharp, A sharp, E sharp. Then you have C flat, G flat, C flat to G flat. Okay. All right. Okay, so on paper, these are all fourths, right? Now if we look and we see F to B, remember we talked about that is an augmented fourth. So if we see that, we know we have to add a flat. Now to make this a perfect fourth, we raise the bottom note to F sharp. Okay? So the enharmonic equivalent of F natural to B flat would be E sharp to A sharp. Okay? These sound the same, but they're spelled differently. Okay? Notice it's going sharp to sharp though, right? Now, the enharmonic equivalent of F sharp to B would be G flat to C flat. These also sound the same, but they're spelled differently. Okay? So, if we see a note and it's not some kind of F, if it starts with a flat, we go up a fourth and it stays flat. Okay? If it starts with a sharp, go up a fourth and stays sharp. And here we are, natural to natural. So flat to flat, sharp to sharp, natural to natural, unless you're on some kind of F, F natural or F sharp. Okay. Now let's look at the fifths. So if we have B to F, okay, that is a diminished fifth, right? So we would have to, we've got, let's do B flat here, sorry. Let's see, A sharp would be B natural. Okay, yeah. No, A sharp would be B flat. Okay, B flat to F, there we go. Now that's a perfect fifth. Now how do we make this a perfect fifth? We raise the F to a sharp, okay? So, the enharmonic equivalent to B flat to F would be A sharp to E sharp. Sounds exactly the same, spelled differently. Okay. Same here, B to F sharp, and harmonically C flat to G flat. Sounds exactly the same, spelled differently. Okay. So here we have notes and they're fifth, right? We want to create fifths. So this one starts with a sharp and it's not on a B, right? So we're good. Let's go up a fifth and sharp it. Sharp to sharp. Okay. G flat. G flat to D flat. Perfect fifth. And then A natural to E is a perfect fifth. So they're always going to go sharp to sharp, flat to flat, natural to natural, unless you're on some kind of B, a B flat or a B natural. Okay, so that'll help in the long run. All right, so I will see you in the next section. Thank you. Okay, so here we are in part C, and we are to notate the specified intervals above the given notes. So I have my handy keyboard here just in case we need it, and let's start off. I'm just going to do every other odd on this section because there's so many. So the first one, bass clef, these are all going to be bass. So the first one is a perfect fourth, right? And it starts on a G. So we go up a fourth to C. It starts on a natural, right? And it's not on an F. It's not on an F or an F sharp. So we know it's natural to natural, G to C. Okay? G to C. All right. So that rule's already coming in handy, okay? Another perfect fourth. Now, this one's on a B flat, okay? It's not on an F, so let's go up a fourth and flat it. All right. Now we have a major seventh from B flat. So, a major seventh is always a half step below the octave. So we have a B flat. We go all the way up to a B flat, perfect eighth higher, go down a half step, and we find the A. Okay? There's our major seventh. Okay? Now, major third. Now we're in treble clef. So we have a D flat. Okay. So let's do our third above, and we'll think about the accidental in a minute. Now, so we have a D flat to F. That is a third. Is it a major third or a minor third? So we have D flat, whole, whole. All right. So it's a major third, okay, which is what we want. Whole half, that would be a minor third, okay. So D flat to F, it's a major third. Major third from F, F to A is a major third. All right, F to A flat would be the minor third. Now, major sixth above A flat. Okay, so we want a sixth, root third fifth, and up one would make that a sixth. Okay, so we look at A flat, build the A flat major scale, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. It's part of the major scale, therefore it is a major sixth. Okay. Back in bass clef now. We have an A, and now we want a minor third. So let's do our third above and check out the accidental we need, if any. So we want a minor third above A. So whole, whole would be a major third. So the minor third would be the C. Okay. 1, 2, 3 half steps away. Okay. So we don't need an accidental there. Now, a major sixth above C. Okay. So we know that all the notes in the C major scale are naturals. So if we just go up a sixth, we know we have the major sixth, C to A. Okay. Now, number 29. Okay. So number 29, major sixth. Ooh, what's this? An F flat. Okay. So let's not worry about the accidental now. Let's just get the sixth above it. So F, A, C, fifth. There's our D. Okay. So let's check this out. F to D that is part of the major scale, right? Because we have a B flat in the key signature only. Whole, whole, half, whole, whole. So that would be a major sixth. Now, F flat, that would make that an augmented sixth. So we want a major sixth, so therefore we're going to have to flat it. F flat to D flat. Okay, that's kind of a tricky one. All right, so now we're in treble clef. And number 31, we have a major sixth above B flat. Okay, so let's do our interval. Root, third, fifth, line, line, line. So we go up one space, and we have the sixth. We want it to be a major sixth. The B flat major scale has two flats, B flat and E flat. So we know that this is a major sixth. Whole, whole, half, whole, whole. It's part of the major scale. It is a major sixth. Perfect. Now, speaking of perfect, we have a perfect fifth. Okay, a perfect fifth above E flat. We know that it's not a B flat or a B, so we know it's going to go flat to flat. All right. That trick's coming in handy. Now, 39. Major seventh above C flat. Okay. So, let's get our seventh. Now, a seventh above C would be B, right? It's a half step below the octave. So we'll put a B there. And we got C, E, G, A on the line, and then we have a B there. Okay, so we want a major seventh. If C to B is a major seventh, then C flat to B flat would also be a major seventh. So we need to flat that. Okay, all right. Now we're back in bass clef. Number 41, a minor sixth above the E. Okay, so let's do our sixth. Let's get our interval. Okay, E, G, B. So we have a middle C there. So E to C, E to C. There's our sixth. Now, is that a major sixth or a minor sixth? Okay, so E to B is a perfect fifth, right? So one step above that would be a minor sixth, and this would be the major sixth, C sharp, because it's part of the E major scale. C natural is part of the E minor scale. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C. All right. So we have, it's correct. We need no accidental. All right, now F sharp, minor seventh above F sharp. Okay, so let's do our seventh. Here's our F line, so we go down one to the E. Okay, so we want a minor seventh, F sharp to E. Okay, so we know F sharp to F, or E sharp, would be the major seventh. All right, here's F sharp. We go down a half step. It becomes an E sharp. So F sharp to E would be a minor seventh. And we leave it. Okay. Now, let's see. We have an E flat, major seventh. Okay, so we go up to the E flat. We go down a half step to D. And that's a major seventh, all right? E flat, there's our octave, perfect eighth, down a half step to a major seventh. All right. Okay, last line. We have treble clef now, and we want a perfect fifth above D flat. Okay, so we go up a fifth, and it's a fifth, so it's not on a B, right? So we know we're going to flat it. Okay. Now, number 55, F flat, a minor second. Ooh. Oh no, a major second above F flat. So we have to draw our second first, and then we'll worry about the accidental. Remember, we draw our note just off to the right. Okay. So let's look at that. F flat to G. So we know F to G is a major second. So F flat to G flat would be a major second. All right. So we're going to need to flat that. It looks like we're going to have to put our flat over here. Normally we'd try and keep that to the right, but I guess they weren't predicting that that was going to happen. So we do the best we can. Sometimes music's weird. Okay, now 59. We have a minor second above A sharp. So we draw our second. A sharp up a half step to B. A half step equals a minor second, right? So here's A sharp up to B. That'd be a minor second. A sharp to B sharp would be a major second. All right. So hopefully these tricks help you, especially with the fourths and fifths that we talked about. And go ahead and fill out the rest. I guess you need to do all the evens. So I'll see you in the next section. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the interval inversions. And first I'll go through the numbers, and then we'll talk about quality. So, okay, everything is always going to equal 9. All right, so seconds invert to sevens. 2 plus 7 equals 9. Thirds equal sixths. Okay. Fourths invert to fifths. Fifths invert to fourths. Okay. And there we go, 6 thirds, 7 seconds. Okay, so let's get into the qualities now. So a major second, C to D, would invert to a minor seventh, D to C, right? Because D to C sharp would be a major seventh, okay? So majors invert to minors. Here we have a major third, and that inverts to a minor sixth, okay? Perfect intervals invert to perfect intervals. Perfect fourth inverts to a perfect fifth, and the perfect fifth inverts to a perfect fourth. Okay, so let's get into the minors now. So we have C to D flat. There's a minor second. Okay, so a minor second would invert to a major seventh. So minors invert to majors. Okay, now we have C to E flat, minor third. That's going to invert to a major sixth. Okay, so here's the perfect fourth. And if we augment it, there's the augmented fourth, and that inverts to a diminished fifth. All right, this would be your perfect fifth. There's the diminished. Okay, so likewise, here's a perfect fifth. That becomes a diminished fifth. All right, and that is going to invert to an augmented fourth. Here's your perfect fourth, augmented fourth. Okay, perfect fifth, augmented fifth. Okay, so an augmented fifth is going to invert to a diminished fourth. There's your perfect fourth. It's getting smaller now, so it's diminished. All right, here's a major sixth, becomes a minor sixth. Therefore, it will invert to a major third. All right, and then we have the major seventh. There's the minor seventh, inverts to a major second. Okay, so it's always going to equal 9. Seconds invert to sevenths. Thirds invert to sixths. Fourths invert to fifths, and fifths to fourths. Major intervals invert to minor, and minor invert to major. Diminished invert to augmented, and augmented invert to diminished. So hopefully it helped you to hear it and see it with the keyboard. And that will definitely help with section B, which is coming up right now. Okay, so here we are, section B. Label what each interval becomes when it is inverted. All right, so a minor third becomes what? So minor inverts to major. That's going to be some kind of major. Thirds invert to sixths, right? So it's got to equal 9. So 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Minor to major. All right. So a major sixth, majors invert to minor, and the 6 would be a 3. Major 6 becomes a minor third. Okay, so a major second, major to minor second would invert to seventh, So a minor seventh. A perfect fifth. Perfect intervals stay the same. And that would invert to a perfect fourth. And you can see these all add up to 9. Right? Okay. Okay, so here we are in part C. Now we need to notate the specified interval below the given note. You might find it helpful to invert the interval first in some cases. Okay, so let's start with number 1, and we're in the treble clef, and we have an F. So we want a major seventh below the F. So major seventh would invert to a minor second. So a minor second above F would be G flat. And for G flat to F is a major seventh, right? And we look here, we have G flat to G flat, perfect octave. We lower it a half a step, and it becomes a major seventh. Okay. The next one, we have a minor sixth. So a minor sixth would invert to a major third, and a major third above D would be F sharp. Okay, so we'll check that. So we have D to F sharp. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps away. So it's a major third. It's also part of the major scale. Whole, right? And so that's a major third, and that would invert to a minor sixth. Okay. Now we have an A flat, and we need to write a minor seventh below it. So minor seventh would invert to a major second. A major second above A flat would be B flat. So you have B flat to A flat is the minor seventh. Now here's C sharp, and we need to write an augmented sixth below that. So sixths invert to thirds. Augmented inverts to diminished. So before we think about all the accidentals, let's just put a third above C, okay? So that would be an E. So the E would go here. Now E to C sharp. Now, so it's part of the E major scale. Whole, half, whole. So we know that's a major sixth. But we want it augmented, right? So to make it larger, we lower the E down to an E flat. And we have the augmented sixth. So we'll put our flat there. Okay. Now we have an augmented fourth below C sharp. Okay, so we know a fourth below C is a G, all right? And we look here, G to C is a perfect fourth, all right? So we augment it, it becomes C sharp. And there it is already. Okay. So here we are on number 11, bass clef now. We have a G flat, and we want a minor second below that. So a second below G would be F, and the G flat to F would be a minor second. where G flat to F flat would be a major second. Okay. So now we have another augmented sixth, this time below the A sharp. So, sixths invert to thirds. So without worrying about the accidentals, a third above A is C, A, B, C. So if we put a C here, that's a good place to start. Now, C to A sharp. Looks like it's already augmented because C to A is a major sixth, right? We know in the C major scale are all naturals, right? So that would be a major sixth. We augmented it by going up a half step. Okay, so number 15. A diminished fifth below the G. So let's do a G. Let's put a C here, because we know that's a fifth, right? C to G is a perfect fifth. We want it diminished. So we need to raise it a half step. C sharp to G. Okay. Perfect fifth. It's getting smaller. Now a diminished fifth. A tritone. Whole, whole, whole. Okay, number 7. We have an F flat. We want to diminish seventh below that. So sevenths invert to seconds. So a second above the F would be a G. So we'll put our G down here. And so now we have G to F flat. It looks like it's already diminished. Okay, let's prove it. So we have G to G. There's your perfect eighth. G to F sharp, major seventh. G to F, minor seventh. G to F flat, diminished. All right, because diminished is getting smaller. And one more, we have an augmented second below the F sharp. Okay, so we know a second below F is just an E, all right? So E to F sharp is a major second, right? Because E to F is a naturally occurring half step. So that would be a minor second. So we want it to be augmented. So we're just going to lower the E down to an E flat. There you go. Okay, so I will see you in the next section. Hi, so we're back in part D now. And we are to label each interval in this melody from Wagner's Götterdämmerung. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I don't speak German, but anyhow, interval 10 is from the F4 to the C5. Okay, so interval 10 here is from F to C here. Okay, and let's look at this. Remember that an accidental remains in effect until the end of the measure unless it's canceled. Okay, so for example, here we have an F sharp, right? Well, this is also going to be an F sharp because it remains in effect unless it's canceled by a natural sign. All right. Okay, so keeping that in mind, here we go. Our first interval, we have a B to a D. Okay, so we know that's some kind of third. We just need to figure out the quality. Is it major or minor? Okay, so B to D. Well, a major third is part of the major scale, right? So you have whole, whole. In B major, you have the D sharp. So in B minor, we'd have the D natural. Therefore, it's a minor third. 1, 2, 3 half steps away. So we'll put a lowercase m, and a 3 there. I'll leave this one for you. And here we go. G sharp to C. So we know G to C is some kind of fourth, right? We just need to figure out what kind of fourth it is. So let's look at that. G to C. That is a perfect fourth. It's part of the major scale and the minor, right? So G to C sharp, it's gotten larger, right? So it'd be an augmented fourth. Okay. Another tritone. Whole, whole, whole. Okay. So we'll put a plus 4 there. Okay. Now this B to the F. Okay. So we know that that is some kind of fourth. Okay. B going down to the F. That is a fourth. Now, B flat to F. Remember, we talked about that. That's the perfect fourth. So, if we raise it up to a B natural, it's getting larger. So it just became an augmented fourth. Okay? All right. And let's see, we have E to D. Okay. Well, that's pretty easy. E to D is a whole step, right? So that must be a major interval. Major second. We'll put the uppercase M there. Okay. Now, 9. We have C to F. And C to F is a perfect fourth. Right? Because in C major, they're all naturals. And here we go. So you have to watch out for this next one. You're doing number 10, the F to C. Okay? So that'll be the answer for that. So I am doing number 11, C to B. Okay? Now if you remember, the naturally occurring half steps are between E and F and B and C. Right? So C to B is a half step. Therefore, it's a minor second. C to B flat would be the major second. Okay. Little m, 2. All right. So number 13, D sharp to G. So D to G, we know that that's some kind of fourth, right? You might even know already that that is a perfect fourth. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 half steps away. Okay, there's your perfect fourth. Now, what was that? Oh, D sharp to G. Okay, so D to G, perfect fourth. Now if we raise that D up a half step to the D sharp, it's gotten smaller, right? Okay, so that would be a diminished fourth. Okay, so we put the little degree symbol, diminished fourth. Okay, so number 15. Here we are. We have an F sharp to an F natural. So we know that it's some kind of unison, right? Now, we have F sharp going down to F natural. Now, after some discussion, I checked the textbook and found that there is no such thing as a diminished unison. Doubly augmented and doubly diminished intervals are possible, but they seldom occur. Okay, so there's no such thing as a diminished unison. So it must be an augmented unison. We put a +1. Okay. Moving on. We have D to D. That's an easy one, right? Perfect octave. All right. Here we go again. F natural to F sharp. So it's the opposite. So we know that that is still an augmented unison. Okay. F to C. Hopefully you know that that is a perfect fifth, right? Now let's see, G sharp to B. We know that that's some kind of third, right? It's going line to line. And let's look at that. So G to B is part of the major scale, right? So that would be a major third. Now if we take that G and raise it up a half step to the G sharp, it becomes a minor third. All right. Oh, there we go. And we're done with this section. So we have one more part to go, and part E. So I'll see you there shortly. Thanks. Bye-bye. Okay, so here we are in part E, our final section for this chapter. Now, beneath each harmonic interval that follows, indicate whether it is consonant, dissonant, or dissonant only if the bass has the bottom note of the interval. So here's consonant, dissonant, and D bass. Here's our intervals. So to figure this out, we need to read the excerpt from the textbook. Okay, so in tonal music, some harmonic intervals are considered to be consonant, whereas others are considered to be dissonant. The terms consonant and dissonant can be defined roughly as meaning pleasing to the ear and not pleasing to the ear, respectively, but these are very dependent on context. Some of the most exciting moments in tonal music involve dissonance, which is certainly not displeasing in that context, but the dissonances resolve eventually to the consonances that give them meaning. As you can imagine, this is a complex subject, and it is one with which much of this book is concerned. For now, it will suffice to say that major and minor thirds and sixths and perfect fifths and octaves are consonant. All other harmonic intervals, including augmented and diminished intervals, are dissonant. An exception is the perfect fourth, which is considered dissonant in tonal music only when it occurs above the lowest note, or lowest voice, also called the bass in both vocal and instrumental music. Okay, so major and minor thirds, sixths, fifths, and octaves, perfect fifths and octaves are consonant. Everything else is dissonant except for the fourth. So that ought to help us figure this out. Now, so our first one, we have a minor third. Is it consonant or dissonant? Well, we know thirds are consonant. Now we have an augmented sixth. Augmented intervals are dissonant. Here's a major sixth. We know that's consonant. Here we have a diminished fifth. Diminished are dissonant. Here we have an octave. We know those are consonant. And a major third is also consonant. Okay. So the main tricky one is the perfect fourth. So hopefully you had a good time with this section and learned a lot. And I look forward to meeting with you again in the next chapter. And thanks for watching. All right. Appreciate it. Bye now.